The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Greetings, folks. Happy Halving.
Josh Shigala from the Standard.io,
Happy Halving!
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1, the Bitcoin halving. According to thehalvening.com, a website we've been using for the last 2 halvenings, there are now 28 blocks remaining, 27 blocks remaining, about 4 hours, 29 minutes, 55 seconds from the 4th Bitcoin halving, the 3rd Bitcoin halving covered by the World Crypto Network. We're going to talk about it during this show. Then we're going to take a break, start another show, and we're going to invite everybody on the internet randomly last minute with no planning and try to have another great halving party like we did in 2020, like we did in 2016. But you're here for the news. Issue 1, Bitcoin halving, partially priced in with no big rally expected afterward, says Deutsche Bank, a name you can trust. The halving, aka Bitcoin Bros World Cup, is nigh, according to CNN, except it's not a World Cup because there is no competition, and it's not a very good analogy except that it happens every year, every 4 years, like the World Cup. But even that is 4 years on average. It's based upon the blocks, not the years. Dan Eve, what do you think about the Bitcoin halving? Halving number 4.
Oh goodness, those Bitcoin bros, with their World Cup of the Bitcoin bloody. These articles are just so funny. You could tell, when she wrote that, she was like how she was writing it. She was like Bitcoin bros, and the stupid World Cup and the halving. Like when all she needed to say was just, I should have bought some, and yes, everyone was right, and we're probably going to see another all-time high soon. So these articles they're just 10 a penny still, even now, the institutions are involved, and the BlackRock are here, and Fidelity and stuff like that. But they're still sat there on the sidelines going trying to poo-poo on Bitcoin, spoil the party, and pee on the bonfire, and whichever other analogies you'd use. But yeah, Bitcoin's not going anywhere, and it's halving. In fact, it's staying in the same place, but half of the emission schedule.
It is an exciting event as usual. Josh Shigala, what do you think about the Bitcoin halving?
Well, I've been holding onto my silver ingot here. It's a beautiful piece. It's Year of the Dragon, I think. That's what I got this. Still got the dead queen on the back here, so that's nice. And it hasn't done anything. In fact, 2021 is pretty much where it is now, and Bitcoin is somewhere else. So we don't know how much silver there is. We don't know how much gold. And look, take it from me, I'm a massive gold silver bug too. Like I love gold and silver. But Bitcoin is the hardest money in the world. It is the rarest number in the world. We have now basically it goes from what is it? How many how many are we going from? This is how much I've lost count. I think it's like 6 and
We are going from 6 and a quarter to 3.125.
Bitcoin, right? So every 10 minutes, BlackRock's buying 10,000 a day some days, and we're generating around 900 a day. So yeah, and then after the halvening, it'll be like 350, something like that. 405, no, 450. Sorry, I don't know, something just
450.
little. Yeah, 450.
350.
Yeah, 350.
350.
And here you go, Josh. Here's the price of silver recently.
There we go. Look at it. Look at it. Oh God, how depressing. How absolutely nightmarishly depressing. Well, they say that it's all manipulated, and that we'll wait and see if this is what happens to the Bitcoin price. If eventually they'll crush it. The thing is that I don't think they'll even be able to crush it with all their tools on Wall Street, because there's just so few of these things. All you can do is divide them down into smaller and smaller units, which means price go up. It is number go up technology, and we'll see that apart from the number go down technology in terms of its issuance. So
It does seem like if you had bought silver 4 years
Scientific.
ago, it would be the same price as it is now.
yeah, yeah. So the true stable coin, I gotta say, but it's not a stable coin because inflation has gone insane over the last 4 years. So
Magic.
yeah, Peter Shifty's narrative is pretty shifty. Look, I just want to iterate. Shifty Pants, Peter Shifty Pants. It really isn't that bad. Like, his thesis is good. It is important to diversify. If you're young and you've got a lot of time to re-earn stuff, and you can save and handle a 8-year bear market, which potentially could be after this bull market, which will skyrocket like crazy. We could see like a 8-year bear, because the bear markets get longer the higher the bull market is. And every year, every bull cycle, we've seen it go longer and longer, the bear market, the consolidation over time. So we could still see that. Although, go back to my thesis, there's just too few. There's too few of these things to control. So whereas silver is still very ambiguous, you can mine it all around the world. There's quite a lot of it. In fact, there's a lot of the time they're not even mining for silver. It's just a byproduct that they also find, and they're like, oh, cool, I can make $32 here. The thesis was always from the silver bugs. Well, they want to control it because they don't want true money. They want their fiat money to reign, and if silver kept on going up, it would be seen as good money. And this is what we're seeing with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is really great money. And in terms of I mean, let's go on to the next topic. I don't want to bore everyone here.
I wonder if silver bugs, now that the Bitcoin and gold Bitcoin market's so big, the silver bugs now say, well, Litecoin silver's like Litecoin to Bitcoin. Like, compare it. They now flip things to say, like, well, Litecoin is silver to gold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's time for that. It's time for the Litecoin to. I think Litecoin has a position here because Bitcoin, it's all part of the whole scaling debate. And it's funny that Vlad's blowing up with his thing with interviewing Roger Ver, and I find it interesting that this debate isn't going to be over ever, because there's always going to be more that people want to do with Bitcoin. It's always going to want to scale further and further and further. So I don't think the debate's over. I think it's a very, very interesting debate. It's something, if we were a private company, we'd be debating it behind closed doors in secret, and then bringing out some flash resolve. But in Bitcoin, it's dirty and gritty, and everyone has to see all the nonsense that happens behind closed doors,
Well, and to go back to silver for just a second, I think it's important. If silver is the one greatest money, but like Josh says, it's been destroyed by manipulation, then it wasn't the one greatest money. So many philosophies and other things don't actually plan or prepare for the real world. You can't just have a philosophy in a vacuum where you're like, if all of the other governments in the world disappeared, tomorrow we would use our government system, because that's an absurd plan. We need bootstrapping, right? And that's the beauty of this whole Satoshi plan and this Bitcoin system. When it started out and everyone laughed at it, that was the time to buy. That was the Roger Ver billionaires and all these other people buying. But as the price goes down, the price goes up, and the amount of currency goes down because of the halving, we keep seeing these events, we keep seeing these things turn over, and Bitcoin goes from being this complete joke on somebody's computer to a major world currency reported on every single day on CNBC. We have to see, again, this is by design, right? The halving is part of this design. Every 4 years, we see a ton more interest in Bitcoin. And now I want to go back to Deutsche Bank and predict the future, for I have seen the past. They say there will be no big rally afterwards. This is not a very large prediction. If we look at the halvings in the past, here's what's going to happen. Actually, I have a graphic. Let me go to the graphic. As you can see here with the graphic, block number 839998 comes through, no one cares. 999, the halving comes through, everyone cares for about 30 minutes, and then the next block continues. So yes, nothing will happen. Bitcoin won't crash. It won't even send out a message like happy halvening, merry halvening, nothing like this. So what will happen is all the people who bought on speculation, who don't know anything about the halvening, even what it is, even the idea that the currency production rate is decreasing by 50%, right? Big deal if you have a locked currency that only has 21 million units. But if you don't know those two facts and you just bought because the halvening's a big fancy event, you look at it and you say, that other meme, I don't have it ready, but poking Bitcoin with a stick. And you're, come on, do something. And it doesn't do anything because the price is not connected to the issuance directly. It's going to be a supply shock. So it's going to take time for people who have a cupboard full of Bitcoin and are used to buying 10 at a time to realize they can only get 5 at a time. And their cupboard keeps getting emptier and emptier until pretty soon there's no Bitcoin. And if they have a business like an exchange or something like that, which requires having more Bitcoin, they're going to have to pay more to get the same amount of Bitcoin. But it's not going to happen overnight. So it's going to be a disappointment to everybody who's trained on the media and wants things to just be real simple and real easy. So get ready for it. Like I said, price goes down. Everybody sells because it didn't happen instantly. Everybody else says, I thought it could never go down. They sell too. Big bunch of selling. And then as it goes on, supply shock takes care of itself. There's only 3 Bitcoins every 10 minutes instead of 6. That's going to happen. And it happened last time. And it was about the same thing. Everybody wanted it to go off right away, and it doesn't. But I do know one person that goes off right away. The greatest predictor of all time of Bitcoin history said it was going down last week. It went down. The panel was wrong. The ball is right. The ball is always right. Now, Dan, Eve, higher or lower this time next week, keeping in mind that you were predicting against the Bitcoin predictor ball, the baldest and truest source of all prediction in the world.
I'm going to be controversial and say there's probably going to be a little dip because of post halvening blues, and then just a little dip before the moon.
Post halvening news, Josh Shigala, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I feel what you just said there in a nutshell. Everyone go, ooh. It's kind of like New Year's Eve, It's you expect this whole big, it's gonna be the best, especially like year 2000. Yeah, all you do is nurse a massive hangover the next day. But it'll go down, and then it'll go like after. I think after like 3 weeks or something, we're gonna start seeing a massive rise start, and the phoenix will fly. But for this week, down.
Well, and that's why we want to go back to this idea of manipulation. Like Josh is saying, if you're a Bitcoiner and you're out there like, this is the greatest thing in the world, how could it ever go down? And like you're saying, other people who are very smart sell, other people who don't have information sell, and people who watch that and just sell or buy based upon what's happening, they also sell. So there will be some sells. The price might go down, but as many people have said in the past, buy the dip, it's an opportunity, all of those things. But I often find myself buy the dip and I'm already all into Bitcoin or whatever. There's no money left to buy the dip. But now we'll ask the ball, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Keeping in mind we do have a halvening coming up this evening. The ball says, don't count on it. Don't count on it. The ball is pessimistic. The ball has spoken, not financial advice. It's a magic ball. But yes, magic ball advice, yes. Moving on to issue 2. Jamie Dimon is back again. I didn't think we'd get to do this article in 2024, but here it is again. Jamie Dimon calls Bitcoin a fraud and a Ponzi scheme and says the crypto is hopeless as a currency. I love this. They always move the goalposts. They always say, oh, you can have a massive market cap, and oh, you could be on every exchange and every TV in the world, but you're still not a currency. But here he is again, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, a company that is getting into Bitcoin against their CEO's wishes, a person whose daughter was into Bitcoin years ago, probably made more money than her father has working in finance. And now he's back again saying Bitcoin's a fraud, a Ponzi scheme. In the past, he called it a pet rock. Josh Shigala on this excellent day of halvening. Isn't it fun? We get to see our own pal, Jamie Dimon, one more time.
Oh, Jamie. I think he's just sort of massive sour grapes, you know. But I, yeah, I can like the fact that the guy doesn't know what a Ponzi scheme actually is, because a Ponzi scheme is a very uh, understood mechanic that you have to get new people in to make, you know, the
Well,
old
yeah,
people whole.
and Josh, it's a term of art. It's not like a Ponzi scheme, like just a scheme. A Ponzi scheme means a circular scheme where everyone pays into the man in the middle. So imagine a big circle, all the money goes to one person. If we had a
Yeah.
Ponzi scheme, Satoshi would get some kind of funding, and he would get all the funding from all the people, and then he would be the Ponzi. But the problem is, it's a Ponzi scheme without a Ponzi, and this is a technical term, Ponzi scheme. It was a person's name. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. No, no worries. Yeah, it's, you know, I can understand that there is a slight feeling of, oh, you've got to, you know, to make the price go up, you've got to get more people. But that's with every single thing in the free market. If more people want it, the price is going to go up. That's just how it is. The fact is, you know, there's a lot of talk, and I touched on it before, about scaling Bitcoin again. It's sort of been uh, uh, rearing its head again, and I feel that um, I feel that the fact is that we have thousands and thousands of altcoins, and even if each one of those individual alts is centralized, um, the sum of everything, it's the idea of private money is now out of the bag, and and you know, all of all of those currencies, all of them, means that you just the government cannot shut down every single one of them. So if the government was to shut down or destroy Bitcoin as the one and first, people would just jump ship to something else, Monero or something. I don't know, you know. So the idea that that we can't scale it, the whole system is scaled already. You can use all sorts of different ways of moving value. Whether that value is the perfect money right now is just nonsense. And for Jamie Dimon not to understand that, not to grasp the fact that, wow, we now have rare digital assets, is nuts. You know, that that someone that in such a high position doesn't get it, to me means the guy should be fired by the board of directors for just being an absolute idiot. To publicly say that he's an idiot as well, to be so publicly an idiot is for me really strange. Yeah.
Well, in a lot of ways, this goes back to what I said on the last thing about Bitcoin and bootstrapping. The way Satoshi designed this system, 21 million coins every 4 years on average, a halvening of the production of those coins, created this thing where years ago Diamond could dismiss it and say, oh, it's a pet rock, it's a joke. And everyone would listen to him. They'd quote him in the articles and they'd say, he must be right. He's the CEO. It's a pet rock. It's a joke. But the way that it unfolded, Bitcoin actually being the product, the MVP actually being the product, it
Yeah.
didn't matter. It kept increasing as the halving structure continued, as more people got into Bitcoin, as the system continued. And they keep losing now. Now they can't seem to win anything. Uh, Dan, Eve, what do you think about Jamie Dimon continuing to attack Bitcoin even after his own company has filed for an ETF and is desperate to get a hold of these sweet, sweet Bitcoin funds?
Yeah, it's not. It's reached a point, right, where it's not looking good for him. And I'm not saying that as just a Bitcoiner, but just it, it's not looking good if all these other companies are involved at such a huge level now. To be one of the last few remaining old man yelling at the sky is not a great look, especially when you're unable to um, recognize one of the biggest like financial or the biggest financial like invention in history. Like it's crazy. I can understand being pessimistic about it and saying like, you know, we don't recommend that, you know, clients put more than X amount of their portfolio and making, you know, all the general sort of stuff, but poo-pooing the way he's done so far and saying it's like the lump of coal, it's fraud and Ponzi is, again it's just a ridiculous term. As you pointed out, it's a Ponzi scheme without Ponzi. And like the Josh's point about, of course, it needs more people to get involved. Like that's like, okay, Metcalfe's law is like the value of a telecommunications network is proportional to the square number of connected users. You need, like, Facebook wouldn't have value if there were just 3 people using it. These things need to be used in order to get value. They just derive more value from the more usage that they do have as they become embedded in society. But yes, so it's ludicrous to say that something relies on becoming popular, because most things that they have in terms of assets that are built and manufactured rely on it being bought and being popular in some form of way. So it's just a ludicrous statement to make. And the fact
and there are really good analogies for Ponzi's that are actual Ponzi's, like the retirement scheme is a very, very strong case for a Ponzi, because you need more people born to pay that get into the workforce to pay for the elderly that are retiring due to inflation. The elderly cannot save into their 401ks or their superannuation schemes enough, because inflation is going to kill that. And so you always need new workers coming in, putting in taxes and everything else for the government to like. So there you have a really strong Ponzi. I don't see Jamie Dimon talking about the retirement fund being a Ponzi scheme, you know?
Well, I just think, again, he needs a lecture in these kind of scam terms. Like, a pyramid scheme has a structure, and you would be under somebody and they would get money, and they would be under somebody and they would get money. That's a pyramid scheme. It's a specific thing. It's not just like pyramid because it's like a triangle or something. There's actually something to it. Not like, again, Ponzi is his name. There's like Emilio Ponzi or something like this. And he had a scheme where he got paid from everybody else. And like Josh is saying, he used the new money to pay off the old money. And that's,
it's not
again,
a Ponzi scheme.
simply
It's a
not
triangle
happening
scheme.
here. Yeah, it's a triangle scheme. It's totally different.
Maybe Jamie Dimon's
not a
still like
pyramid.
seething about there. Didn't they try and like clone Zcash or something? And they try to build. They spent a lot of money building an internal blockchain, and it just got thrown down the can. So maybe like he's peed off that they don't. JP Morgan doesn't have any Bitcoin products, so the only way they can stay relevant is by him moaning about Bitcoin until they've got a product to come to the table.
It is funny, and we have heard it before from people who worked inside of banks and stuff. It's not uncommon for them to have a whole project, all the code, all the marketing, all the everything we're going to do, and then just decide we're going to kill it. So it's very possible they had multiple Bitcoin exchange type ideas inside of their company, worked out all the way, and then decided at the end they couldn't do it for whatever reason.
Well,
But it
Meta
is
is a
interesting.
really good example of that. Meta
Sure.
had the whole, Meta, they were doing it just before they rebranded to Meta, right? Facebook bucks. I have a video of me talking in 2011 saying that Meta, like that Facebook is going to come out with their own coin eventually. And it came true, but then quickly got crushed by regulators, because that's why private money is never taken off. That's why Satoshi was anonymous, because he needed that anonymity to launch, because governments do not like private money. They don't like competition, as Ron Paul likes to say.
Well, we talk often about Prometheus and how he brought fire to man, and then he was rewarded for this. He was chained to a rock, and a vulture comes every day and eats his liver. So Satoshi probably heard this story, thought he was bringing fire to man, and didn't want to be chained to a rock and tortured forever. So it's a good reason for this anonymity, not just to piss off the media, who's just upset they can't get an interview. But let's keep moving. Check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 3,660 videos and more, all for free on YouTube and on worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got a lot of short videos these days. You can click on this day and see what we're doing. Looks like we were planning a Bitcoin halving party live on April 19th, 2020. Back in 2019, we had the Bitcoin Optech newsletter. In 2018, a Today in Bitcoin show. 2017, there was an On the Record show with Tone Vase. In 2015, transmission number 32 with Theo Goodman talking about the World Series of Bitcoin. And in 2014, This Week in Cryptos number 10. So there's videos almost every day, every year at worldcryptonetwork.com.
Yeah.
Check out issue 3. Jim Cramer recommended buying Ethereum or Bitcoin instead of this stock. Let's not fool around. And he's talking about Marathon Digital, and I think they're a mining company. But the big thing to me about this article is that Jim Cramer, Mad Money, one of the talking heads on TV that tells you to buy the stock after it's gone up, is now telling you to buy Ethereum or Bitcoin directly. I just thought it's great that he's recommending the underlying asset, not recommending buying stock in some company. Josh Shigala, what do you think about the big turnaround for Jim Cramer, who also, I think, insulted Bitcoin for years and yet is still a trusted financial advocate who you could watch on TV and buy the things that he buys if you want to lose money too?
Well, I think it's probably a bad thing because everything that he recommends tends to go down. Like the problem with the media is, and you see it with all your friends. If you guys in the chat here, give us a like if this has happened to you. But like when people recommend when Bitcoin's down in the dumps and the bear market's in full swing, nobody's talking about it. Jim Cramer's not talking about it. The ticker's not on there. We've mentioned this before on the show. It's just not a thing. And as soon as there's all-time highs, they're all talking about it. They're all recommending it like absolute fools. It's like if you get, I don't know, could you imagine some company selling jeans or whatever, and the jeans are like, now we're selling it at the highest price it's ever been, and all the shows are talking about it. Buy these jeans, they're amazing. And then when they're on sale, like 50% off, no one mentions them. No one talks about it. The same jeans, you know. I don't know. It's just strange that the world tends to look when the price is high. All your friends start ringing you. Oh, I've heard this Bitcoin thing's going up. Oh yeah, but look, please. And you don't, as someone like that's you know, a talking head on this in this space, we don't want to recommend something at the all-time highs. So I just get really peed off because all the televisions are talking about it, all the television shows in the mainstream. They then call me saying, "Hey, should I buy it?" And I'm like, I don't know what to say because right now you should have done it when no one was talking about it. You should have called me when no one was talking about it. Instead, it's now. And it gets awful because then the price tanks and then you get the second call. What the hell, man? What's happening to the price? And I'm like, you know, so it's just awful. It's just awful.
I agree, Josh. It is hard for those people to buy when no one's talking about it. They have to be out there on their own. But once everyone's talking about it, you almost have to say, don't buy. You almost have to say, wait and wait this out, especially when Jim Cramer comes around. But it's hard for me to really even look at this financial news and look at this whole idea of financial news and not see it as satire or parody. Every time they're telling you about something that happened yesterday, they're like, Nvidia is a really good stock. Today, now that you learned about AI and that they're building AI machines, very rarely is it NVIDIA's building AI machines and we think they're going to work and you should buy it for the future. It's very rarely that. These days, it's always the tech market's going nuts and they show you what happened yesterday. And then if you invest, you get to be, like Josh said, the loser who loses money when everyone around you is making money. So I don't understand why people watch these things. I know it seems almost like wrestling. Like people think they're watching it either two ways. They're like dumb and they're like, oh, stock recommended, buy. Or they're smart and they're like, oh, these guys are idiots. I'd never do what they say. And maybe they're shorting or they're leveraging or they have some kind of other plan or they just think it's funny or it's like wallpaper. I don't know why these things are on, but these people are recommended geniuses and they're always wrong. They're just consistently always wrong. But much like our prediction system here, if you don't keep track of it and you just say it's 100% every time, then you're 100% right. And who's to prove it? Because you didn't keep any track. Dan, Eve, what do you think about Jim Cramer and the media in general coming around to Bitcoin this time?
Well, Kramer's worrying because as soon as he backs an asset, it usually tanks. And now I'm fearful. But you know, we see this with Bitcoin time and time again, right? And as Josh said, when the price is pretty dull, no one really talks about it. And then as soon as the price, you know, starts getting exciting again, everyone's talking about it. And it's the thing that we see around, which is that, you know, the people, they're interested in technology, but only a few are really interested in the technology, right? Is the price, the number go up is what really excites people. But ultimately, like when people, Josh, you were saying, like when people approach you and they say, you know, oh, should I buy now? Should I buy now? Like the thing I always say is, I can't tell you to buy, but all I'm going to say is that I'm not selling right now. So, it's whether you want to get in and hold it free sort of thing. And that's easier than like someone than having to come up with a buy or a sell, because I always feel really guilty. But like one of my uni mates turned around to me the other day, and we were meeting up, and he was like, and because they always used to pick on me about Bitcoin, they always like make fun of me and stuff. And it's all in good jest, right? It was just the thing was like, oh, how Dan's spoken about Bitcoin yet? One of them pulled me aside and was like, oh, I bought Bitcoin. I didn't years ago, and this was like 2013. He was like, I didn't actually say it, and I was like, all these years, and you didn't say anything. And he's like, yeah,
Oh my God.
and I'm like, oh, like over the moon. I was absolutely, I felt so good, that someone had got in, held, and just forgot about it. So it's a great feeling, but it's a lot more difficult, like, to get people involved, I think, now, because you used to almost have the craziness of the asset, that made the volatility kind of worth the dip, but now it's embedded, so people see it dip of like 20%, and it's more of a shock to them than getting involved years ago, knowing it was some crazy asset class and it could drop 80% in a day. So yeah, I'm a lot more like placid when it comes to getting people on board now. Like,
I hope you say it like while like in a Yoda voice while twiddling your beard, saying, "Well, I can't tell you when to buy, but I'm just saying, me not sell now."
It is funny, Dan. I think that people just want to get rich without knowing anything. They want to say, I bought JJJ coin and JJJ went up 500% and I sold it and I don't know anything. I think they want that story. They don't want to actually do research, read about Bitcoin, read about the 21 million units, read about the halving, read about the way you can send money all over the internet, even to things we don't agree with, and that funding can't be stopped, unlike other systems where you can arbitrarily freeze money and money just stops somewhere. But again, that's actual research. You'd have to read actual website, watch actual videos, like maybe take notes, have a whole plan to like learn about what Bitcoin is, learn about what cryptos are, or you could just randomly choose an altcoin from Coinbase. You could say, I'm into house coin, I'm into lamp coin, whatever it is, and put your entire life savings in that and see how it goes. I think that they would rather do that than do the research and invest in something that might be boring and slow, like Bitcoin or mutual funds or bonds or whatever it is. And because they want that story. They want to say on the other side, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I made millions of dollars. It makes it more fun. I don't know. I had the same thing where I would procrastinate and I wouldn't prepare for tests, and I would try to pass the test without doing any work, and I was able to do it, so it was fun. But I found later, when you actually do the work and you do the assignments before the test is easy. Like the answers to the test were right there in the assignments. Like all you had to do is the work. And I guess some people won't do that or whatever. I don't know. But once again, they could have done the work. They could have learned about Bitcoin. But let's keep moving here. We have one more story. It was really hard to find any stories that weren't just Bitcoin halving, the price, Bitcoin halving. But we found one more for you guys. Issue 4. UFC star Renato Moicano looks to Bitcoin as a defense against the tyrant state and inflation. And it seemed like just last week they were saying no one cares about the philosophy of Bitcoin anymore. No one cares that you can move money across the internet to anywhere you want for pennies on the dollar. But this guy does. Renato Moicano, I'm sure I'm butchering his name. He could probably beat me very badly. But Josh Shigala, what do you think about this UFC star waving some of that libertarian Bitcoin flag there and doing it publicly?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I think he brought up von Mises and like he's totally bloodied and after the fire. Oh, everybody,
he's like, get your library cards out. You're going to read some
library.
Austrian philosophy with me.
Yeah, read von Mises. So it's great pulling out this like Austrian economist. That's brilliant. Brilliant. I thought it might have been some sort of like AI generated clip, but no, it was real. I thought it was great. No, good stuff. There's been a few times where we've sponsored fighters and things as a community, and BitPay or whatever back in the day. I don't know who, someone, BitGo or someone. We've done Formula One cars. We've done. There's been a whole bunch of a whole bunch of different characters throughout the time. But yeah, I think it's fantastic that when people get they get orange pilled, they start to understand. And to your point before about talking to people early on, the thing is that Bitcoin needs quite a bit of learning curve to truly understand why it's valuable. Sure, you can hear, oh, my friend got rich and that, but back in the early days, there was no, those stories didn't exist yet. And so for you to go out and say you should buy this random thing where you've got to jump through a million hoops and before you can get it because Coinbase didn't exist or whatever. But B, you've got to have a background of understanding what's the value proposition of this. Why is this even interesting? I mean, it's such a weird concept to buy some.
And Josh, if you think the halving is going to be boring when it switches from this number block to the next number block and the reward goes from 6 something to 3 something, the same is true about when you buy your first Bitcoin. I mean, it's neat when you send it around, you have it in the wallet and stuff. But really, when you send like a 0.1 or a 0.01 or whatever you're able to get your hands on into your wallet, it just goes beep, and the little number goes up, and that's it. The wallet really doesn't react. It doesn't come up like, you've entered a new world and you understand economics now, and here's your certificate, your reward. There's no, like, it doesn't blink or flash. I mean, even we're watching in the background, I'm keeping an eye on this halvening graphic from, thehalvening.com, and it's blinking and it's flashing, and I don't know why, but there's red Sprinter vans that have shown up to improve our party. And I have no idea what's going on here. But Bitcoin wallet is nothing like that. It's not very rewarding. And it doesn't say either. It's like, and it seems so simple now. If I could have just told people like Bitcoin will be 50,000 one day. So if you think of every 100 or every 1,000 you put into this as 50K and just have that mindset, that would be great if the wallet told you that. If the wallet was like, you bought one of 21 million, it could be worth something someday. You should hold on to this. Write down your keys. Give it to your children or something. But yeah, it doesn't do that. Let's see. Dan, did you have more on this? Josh, you have more on the UFC fighter who's fighting for Bitcoin now?
No, but I just want to say to anyone in the chat, come on, invite your friends, give us a thumbs up, go jump into your communities on Discord or whatever and tell them about the show. Jump on because we're going to have a huge, big halving party over here. And do it.
All right, let's go to Dan Eve. What do you think, Dan Eve? I love this vision that Josh and I are having of the boxer, the fighter, all bloodied and beaten and talking like Sylvester Stallone. He's like, Adrian, there's only 21 million units. You buy it.
If he loses his private keys, he loses his private keys. As he dies. Yeah, I mean, he's from Brazil, right? And there's probably a lot more of like government kind of infringement happening over there, and where they're a lot more kind of concerned about how their capital can be just like taken over by certain parts of the government that maybe be deemed as a bit more corrupt, right? So just as we've got that paranoia over here about the fact that if you hold your own keys, the government can't just take it easily. They've got to get your seed or extract those 12 words from your brain. So we do see that a lot of the more kind of passionate people that come into Bitcoin are from areas where Bitcoin would actually really, really help them take control of their lives and take control of their money. So it's good when you see kind of big names from these areas as well, also educating their own sort of communities on how Bitcoin can actually help them, and from a position who's lived through it and knows how it would help them. So it's just a shame that the IMF and co aren't behind it for some real obscure reason, right? They'd rather piss on the party than actually kind of congratulate, for example, El Salvador for pulling a rabbit out of the hat.
Well, it was strange, and it was hard to take back in the day when Andreas Antonopoulos would say, "Bitcoin's not really for you. You live in America, you live in the United Kingdom, you have a great credit system, you have a relatively honest legal system, you have all these advantages. Bitcoin is kind of like Dan saying for the people of Brazil, for the people of I guess El Salvador, but maybe more like Venezuela, places like that where they've lost a lot of freedoms, and having this Bitcoin, like China, gives them some of their freedom back. And if you live in the United States, you can get a credit card in 10 minutes and you can use it anywhere you want. you don't really have this lack of freedom to fight back from. So it's been interesting to promote and to sell people on Bitcoin here in the States and the other developed nations. I always say it wrong, whereas it was really these developing nations that needed us, and that's why I'm always so excited by the Black Bitcoin Billionaires, the BBB, because I really think they can speak to their community, and their communities had a lot of setbacks and poverty, and they could really use a chance at getting some of this Bitcoin before the banks buy it all up, which is pretty much happening right now. We're checking in with the halving, 21 blocks remaining, a red Sprinter van driving around, bringing us more space-suited humans, getting ready, crushing them.
Spacemen.
So there's some violence implied, but there's where the party's made better by Red Sprinter Van. Shout out to thehalvening.com for improving this graphic year after year. I think we're headed to the end of the show. So just a quick update. We're going to be doing our usual halvening party. We had one of these in 2016. You can see thehalving.com was much simpler back then. Halving number 2, a rocket. And you can see Josh down here in the things ready to go. And then we had the 2020 halving party. They've upgraded the rocket to this new bright yellow rocket. And we had an incredible group of guests on this show. We're going to reach out to them on Twitter at the last minute and see if they're around and see if they want to celebrate this halvening with us. As you can see here, this great classic meme posted by Alistair Milne says, the block will go up. We'll celebrate arbitrarily at this number, 840,000 blocks, and then nothing will happen and Bitcoin will just keep going. And shout out to Alistair. He says he's going to be in bed during the comments and the halvening. He says, where were you when Bitcoin became harder than gold, Dad? In bed, asleep. Effing legend. So another great meme. But now we're going to go to predictions or story of the week. Dan, Eve, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
I predict that Bitcoin will the block reward will halve at the 840,000 block. But my story of the week was I've been away for a few weeks because I was like really sick and stuff. But then went on a cool mission last week to my mate lives in South Korea, and so in Cheonan. So I flew over there, so like literally turned up at his door and surprised him. And then my parents happened to be like around that sort of neck of the woods because they were meant to be meeting him. Instead of him showing up, I then surprised them too, and scared the hell out of them. So it was and then the day before that was the Bitcoin the conference, the really cool little conference, at Carlton Football Club, the Bitcoin Festival, which is really good. And that was a cool little event. Victoria was there, Ben was there, and Indy was there. Like there was quite a few people. It was a nice little meetup. Yeah, and then straight out to South Korea, and then back again for my son's birthday. So it was very, very eventful. And then like literally spent a day in jet lagged in like walking around Peppa Pig World, and it was wonderful and everything, but lots of queues and like screaming and stuff. It was
Dan, you got to start building. You got to start filming these incredible adventures. I don't know if people quite understand that Dan flew all the way to South Korea to surprise his parents, and that there's this moment where his parents are there, his friends there, and he comes out from around the corner completely no plan, completely a surprise. It's amazing, Dan. What was the look like on their faces? What did they do?
Well, my mate, the first one I saw, I kept on. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to sleep." So I was trying to like message him and saying, "Oh, I'm just picking up something from eBay, so make sure you're awake." Because I didn't know I didn't know if I'd be able to get into his block of flats or whatever. So I managed to keep him up, and then he was just basically just about to go to bed. So he was pretty half naked in a towel. So he was very surprised, obviously, that I turned up. and then my parents were just like meant to be waiting for him, like because he was meant to be meeting them. And then I just turned up at the coffee shop. It was quite cool as well.
It's amazing, Dan. It looks like Josh has a dog joining us. Hi, doggy.
Yeah. Well, my story of the week is I'm going to get a little puppy friend for my dog here, and and so she's going to be happy because she'll be able to play with the puppy from Wednesday.
Oh, very cool.
That's one big dog. Yeah, beautiful black German Shepherd. It will be here. So I'll give updates as time goes by.
That's excellent. And as Josh said, we're going to have a halving party. There's still 21 blocks remaining, which is quite a lot of blocks. I don't think you guys want to see us stall that much. So we're going to wait until there's less blocks. And then we're going to start the halving party right here on the World Crypto Network. We'll try to set up an event and stuff beforehand so you can hang out in the chat. But just in general, keep an eye on the Twitter. We'll put the link out there. And we're going to be right back, and we're going to do our traditional halving party. We're going to arbitrarily invite people randomly on the internet last minute and see how it goes. If it goes well, people will join us. If it goes poorly, we'll play clips from the last two halving parties we had. So we have a plan. We have a backup plan. But thanks to everybody for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.